There comes a moment, not loud, not dramatic, but utterly decisive, when the soul whispers no more, not out of bitterness, not from exhaustion, but from clarity, clarity that the time has come to reclaim oneself from the illusions, the compromises, the masks. Today, I speak not to your ambition, not to your logic, but to the deep, ancient self beneath all roles and personas. It's time to say no more to what weakens you, betrays you, and keeps you exiled from your true center. How many times have you felt the subtle tug, the quiet whisper inside, urging you toward a choice, a boundary, a truth, and you ignored it? That soft murmur that lives beneath the noise of the world is not naive, not irrational. It is the oldest part of you. It is the self that remembers who you are beneath the compromises, the obligations, and the layers you've been taught to wear. To betray that voice is to fracture yourself. And, though the world may praise your adaptation, your diplomacy, your self-sacrifice, your silence, something in you knows that a price is being paid. That price is authenticity. That price is integrity. That price is peace. You see, the inner voice is not loud because it does not need to be. It is rooted in something deeper than the ego's appetite for validation. It is not concerned with what is trending, profitable, or popular. It speaks in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when the mask falls away, when the roles dissolve. And in those moments, if you are honest, you know the difference between what feels right and what feels like betrayal. Every time you say yes to what violates your values, even slightly, you fracture a part of your soul. Every time you silence your truth to keep the peace, to avoid discomfort, to be liked, a little more of your vitality slips away. And though you may succeed in playing the part, deep within you a tension builds, a restlessness, a weariness, a quiet grief for the self you abandoned. Saying no more is not about arrogance. It is not rebellion for rebellion's sake. It is reverence. It is standing before yourself and saying, I will no longer live against myself. It is the first act of loyalty to your inner world, the only world you truly own. The truth is, the inner voice has always been there. Even as a child you felt it. When something felt wrong, when something felt pure, when something felt sacred, you knew. But as you grew, you were taught to override it. Don't be difficult. Be nice. Fit in. Don't make waves. And slowly, layer by layer, the voice became a whisper. But it never died. To live a true life, you must unlearn the habit of self-abandonment. You must choose to listen again. Not just when it's convenient, but when it costs you something, because the soul does not speak to flatter your ego. It speaks to guide your transformation, and sometimes that guidance asks you to walk away, to speak up, to say no, to say yes when no one else understands why. That is the cost of authenticity, but it is also the path to inner peace. So now you must decide, will you continue to betray the one voice that has always been honest with you, or will you return to it, honor it, and let it lead, not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because your soul is too sacred to keep silencing. No more. There is a quiet epidemic that hides in plain sight, not in hospitals, not in headlines, but in the daily drift of the soul. It is the slow erosion of presence, the constant flight from stillness, the subtle, compulsive turning away from the moment that is asking something of you. It's the habit of reaching for anything, your phone, a screen, a conversation, a task, even a thought, just to avoid the vastness of your own interior life. Distraction is not just entertainment. It has become anesthetic, a way to numb the ache of emptiness, a way to avoid asking the deeper questions that come rushing in the moment we stop. What am I doing with my life? Who am I beneath the roles? What is this pain I keep pushing down? These are not easy questions. And so instead of facing them, we scroll, we binge, we overcommit, we consume. We tell ourselves we are busy, but often we are just unwilling to be alone with ourselves. But what if the discomfort you run from is not your enemy? What if the silence you avoid is not empty but sacred? You see, your soul does not shout over the noise. It waits. It waits for you to return. To unplug, to slow down, to breathe, and in that stillness, something ancient stirs, not always comforting, but always honest. In that stillness, your truth returns to you, not polished or perfect, but raw and real. There is a cost to living in distraction. It's not just lost time, it's lost connection, connection to your own depth, to your purpose, to the subtle beauty of being alive. When you live scattered, when you move from one stimulation to the next, your life becomes shallow. Wide, perhaps, but without depth. And without depth there can be no meaning, no transformation, no real joy. The world is not going to demand that you slow down. It will feed your distraction, monetize your attention, reward your reactivity. But your soul does not care about efficiency. It craves integration, wholeness, meaning, and those cannot be found while running. Saying no more is not a vow to never be entertained or amused. It is a refusal to live in exile from your own soul. It is choosing presence over avoidance, intention over impulse, silence over static. It is creating sacred space in your life where nothing needs to happen, where nothing needs to be achieved, where you simply allow yourself to be, and to feel whatever arises in that being. When you stop distracting yourself, you might feel things you've long buried, loneliness, longing, regret, but you will also find your clarity, your creativity, your forgotten dreams, your buried fire. The parts of you that have been waiting patiently behind the noise. To live a real life, you must be willing to feel again, to sit with the silence long enough for it to speak, to break the cycle of automatic avoidance and say, I am ready to be here, fully, honestly, awake. No more running. No more numbing. No more disappearing behind a screen or a schedule or 1,000 surface-level engagements. It's time to return to yourself. It's time to stop escaping. No more. There is a part of you the world was never supposed to touch. A part untouched by praise or blame, image or identity. But somewhere along the way, that part became hidden, covered in layers of adaptation, protection, and performance. You didn't mean to lose yourself. You were simply surviving. You learned which parts of you were acceptable, which ones were too much, too strange, too vulnerable. So you began to shape yourself to be what others expected. You became who they needed you to be, not who you truly were. And slowly, without even realizing it, you put on the mask. At first, it may have seemed harmless, just a role, just a way to fit in, to avoid conflict, to succeed. But over time, it became a habit, then an identity, then a prison, and eventually, you began to forget who you were underneath it all. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You agreed when your soul whispered no. You played the part, competent, agreeable, strong, unaffected. You hid your fear behind control, your sorrow behind humor, your depth behind distraction. But the mask is not you. It's who you had to be to belong in a world that rarely welcomes the full truth of a person. Wearing the mask may protect you, but it also isolates you. It creates a life where you are seen, but not known, loved, but not for who you really are, respected, but always on edge, afraid that if you slipped for even a second, the truth would spill out and the illusion would crack. And so you keep performing, but the performance is exhausting. You lie in bed at night and wonder why, with all the connection around you, you still feel so alone. That is the loneliness of the masked life. Not because you lack people, but because you've lost the ability to show up as your unmasked self, and your soul feels it. Your soul grieves the distance between your outer world and your inner truth. There comes a time when wearing the mask is no longer sustainable, not because the world changes, but because you do. The pain of living a false life becomes greater than the fear of being seen, and in that moment, something in you stirs. Not rebellion, but a quiet courage. The courage to be whole again, to be flawed, complex, uncertain, vulnerable, and real. Saying no more is not about rejecting society or becoming reckless. It's about choosing integrity over image. It's about removing the layers that never belonged to you and letting the raw, unfiltered self emerge. Not perfectly, but honestly. There will be fear. The mask gave you control, and now you walk into the unknown. But what you gain in return is far greater. You gain congruence, you gain peace, you gain the right to be fully alive. The ones who love you may resist the change at first. They loved the mask, they understood it. It was predictable, but those who are meant for your real life, not your performance, will stay, and they will meet you there behind the mask where truth lives and intimacy begins. So now the question is not, who do they need me to be? It is, who am I, really, when I no longer have to perform? That is the question that brings you home. No more pretending. No more pleasing at the cost of your soul. No more performing for love you never truly receive. The mask is heavy. You were not born with it. And you do not need it to be worthy. It's time, no more. There is a place within you that you've spent years avoiding. A place you've kept locked away, hidden not just from the world, but from yourself. It's the part of you that holds everything you were told not to be. Your anger, your shame, your envy, your impulses, your unmet needs, your fears, your wounds. These are the pieces of you that didn't fit the image you were trying to uphold, the self you were taught to present, the version of you that would be loved, accepted, and safe. So you buried them, you cast them out. You looked away and called it growth. You told yourself you had moved on, but the truth is, what is buried alive doesn't die, it waits. It waits in the darkness of your unconscious. It waits in the patterns you can't seem to break. It waits in the relationships that trigger you, the emotions that flood you, the moments when your control slips and something ancient breaks through. That is the shadow, not a monster, but the sum of all that has been unloved and unintegrated within you. You see, you were not meant to be perfect. You were meant to be whole, and wholeness requires that you turn and face the very parts you've spent your life running from, not to indulge them, not to be consumed by them, but to understand them, to listen, to reclaim what is yours. Because within the shadow is not only pain, there is also power, there is energy, there is creativity, there is truth. When you deny your anger, you also deny your capacity for boundaries and self-protection. When you reject your sadness, you dull your depth and your empathy. When you disown your ambition or desire, you live a life that's smaller than the one you were meant to create. You think you're being moral by suppressing what's bad, but often you're simply making yourself fragmented, tame, predictable, and quietly miserable. You cannot become whole by editing yourself. You become whole by integration, and integration requires confrontation, the sacred kind, the kind where you sit with your shadow, not as an enemy to be defeated, but as a teacher to be understood. You ask, why are you here? What do you need me to see? What have I been running from? And in that inquiry, the shadow softens. It reveals its secrets. It begins to dissolve, not because you destroyed it, but because you acknowledged it. This is not easy work. It is not glamorous. There will be tears. There will be resistance. You will want to turn away again and again. But something deeper in you knows the truth. Until you face the shadow, it controls you. Quietly, invisibly, it sabotages your joy, distorts your relationships, whispers lies about who you are. But once you face it, once you hold it with the light of awareness and the grace of compassion, it loses its grip. And in its place, something astonishing emerges: freedom, integrity, real peace. No more pretending you have no darkness, no more spiritual bypassing, no more hiding behind positivity or perfection. You are not meant to be light alone. You are the full spectrum, and your healing does not lie in eliminating the dark. It lies in bringing the dark into relationship with the light. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be real, to be whole, to be conscious. So stop running, turn inward. The shadow isn't there to destroy you. It's the doorway to your deepest transformation. No more exile, no more fear, no more fragmentation. It's time to return to the parts of you you thought you had to abandon. It's time to look into the darkness and not see a demon but an invitation. No more running, no more. There is a quiet kind of death that doesn't come with funerals. It happens slowly, silently, almost invisibly. You begin to go through the motions. You smile at the right times. You say the right words. You follow the routine. From the outside, everything seems fine, functional, even successful. But inside, something essential is missing. Something vital has gone numb. You're breathing, but you're not really alive. You've become a shadow of yourself, a diluted version, dulled by repetition, safety, and compromise. You weren't born to live this way. You didn't come into this world to merely get through the day, to numb your longings, to silence your truth. Yet somewhere along the line, you traded vitality for comfort. You learned that risk was dangerous, that desire was inconvenient, that depth was impractical. So you shrunk. You dimmed your light to make others comfortable. You ignored the ache for something more, and now you find yourself here, perhaps successful, perhaps surrounded, yet still feeling a strange emptiness in the quiet moments. That emptiness isn't a flaw. It's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a signal. It's your soul trying to get your attention. It's the sacred unrest that arises when you are living in a way that denies your essence. You see, life is not just a series of tasks to complete. It is not meant to be endured like some long obligation. It is meant to be felt. It is meant to stretch you, awaken you, surprise you, break you open, and rebuild you again. It is meant to make your spirit tremble, your heart weep, your being come alive, but none of that happens when you are half present, half-hearted, half awake. Living half alive means you are constantly waiting for the right time, the perfect conditions, the approval of others, the guarantee that nothing will go wrong. But life doesn't wait, it passes by. And every moment you delay your aliveness, every time you choose familiarity over truth, every time you betray your fire for the illusion of safety, a little part of you falls asleep. Saying no more is an act of resurrection. It is a refusal to let your one and only life be dictated by fear, by habit, by inherited stories about what is practical or proper. It is a vow to risk feeling again, to risk presence, to risk failure and pain and joy and wonder. It is a decision to reclaim your sacred right to be fully here, even if it means shaking off everything that once felt certain. You were not born to live a life that's only about survival. You were not made to exist in grayscale. You are a creature of soul, of depth, of divine complexity. You are here to fall in love with existence, to create, to weep, to wonder, to rage, to stand in awe beneath the stars, to touch the infinite through the ordinary, to dance with both the beauty and the terror of being fully alive. And yes, it will cost you. To live fully means you will feel deeply. You will lose things, you will not be understood by everyone, but the alternative, the quiet death of the spirit, is a cost far greater. So now, it is time to decide, will you continue to live halfway, waiting for permission to finally be who you are, or will you rise from the slumber, even trembling, and declare, I want all of it, not just the safe parts, not just the curated moments, but all of life, raw, sacred, and real. No more shrinking, no more sleepwalking through your days, no more postponing your passion. You are not meant to exist, you are meant to live. No more living half alive, no more.